Hey guys, so today I want to dive into some basic principles and strategies for how you can dive into minimalism. I want to add that I'm somebody that's just starting to work on minimalism. I'm really not there yet, but I found a lot of strategies that have helped increase my motivation and made my mind just more focused on minimalism as a goal for me. I keep talking about moving toward minimalism because honestly for me, this is a process. It's not a destination. And I know that's such a cliche, but I really do think that because I know the way I work, I don't think I'll ever get to the point where I have so few belongings that I can confidently call myself a minimalist. But I do think that if I constantly try to inject the principles of minimalism into my life and increase behaviors that are consistent with minimalism, I'm gonna get closer. And so I really think of it as, how can I move toward minimalism? And how do I really start to dive in and jump into that process today? I'm Aylin, if we haven't met before, and this is my channel Slice of Light, where I talk about simple living, building an empowering mindset, and photography and videography. If those topics sound interesting to you, go ahead and click the subscribe button below. So I think the first step of minimalism, and I wish I had even realized this sooner, but the most important first step, I think, is to have some self-reflection and ask yourself that question, why? Why do I want to move toward minimalism? And you might start out by identifying perhaps some of the more superficial reasons, like I want to have a tidier space. I want when guests come over to feel like this is a really clean, beautiful space that they're comfortable in. Maybe I want to spend less time tidying around my house. But then the question becomes, why is that important to you? What about that would actually improve the quality of your life? And for me, I've realized that by having fewer belongings and having less clutter around me, my baseline level of stress will automatically decrease a little bit. And that'll be beneficial for me in some really important ways. First of all, I'll be able to focus way more. And by focusing more, I'll be more productive. Having my home really tidy and clean is important because I do work from home. And I also work on projects where my emotions really impact the quality of the product. So I do photography, videography, and podcast production. And if I'm stressed the entire time, I just think the quality of what I create is just not as good. More than that, if I'm stressed, I'm just not as efficient. And so I produce things at a slower rate. In addition, by having a cleaner space, I spend less time focused on tidying. I'm able to put that time into other areas of my life that are more important to me, like spending more time on my work, spending more time with my husband or with friends or with other family members. It also allows me to spend more time relaxing, and I think being able to have the time and the space to recharge is so important. And so by moving toward minimalism, I'm freeing up all this extra time and space to place energy into what I really care about. In addition, I see a lot of financial gains to minimalism. Now, I don't think that I'm ever going to be somebody that never buys anything, but I will do it far more intentionally, be able to buy the objects that I really care more about, and put less money into extraneous little things that I don't really care about. And by doing that, I can put more money into my savings and focus on working towards bigger goals in my life. So those are just some examples for me, but I think it's so important to actually spend some time thinking about what are the reasons. And I think the best strategy for that is to continue to ask yourself that why. So like, if the surfaces are clean and my kitchen feels clean, why is that good to me? How will it get me closer to my values? What are my values in work, in community, in family, in friendships, in all these different areas? What is it that I care about? And what do I want to be putting more of my energy into? And once you've really spent some time figuring out the why, everything else will just fall into place. And that way also, anytime you're decluttering or going through a challenging part of minimalism, you can always come back to that vision of why you're doing it and get that little extra boost or fuel to get you through that difficult challenge. I also think that a lot of us think we know why, But if we don't actually spend the time reflecting on it and really doing this deeper soul searching, you're not going to find that deep core sense of motivation and confidence in your journey toward minimalism. So you're missing out on a huge part of the process and a huge part of, I think, the payoff. So in addition to figure out that reason, that purpose, that why, I think it's good to think about what are some initial first quick, easy steps that can help me move toward minimalism. Just cut down on things that you either have multiple or many of. So things like scissors, hairbrushes, can openers. Are there items that you have numerous of, and what can you get rid of? Another thing is to peruse the different strategies or approaches to minimalism, educate yourself, and figure out one strategy that works for you. Now, it can be potentially a combination of numerous strategies, but ultimately I think having a really set plan can be good. By having a focused approach, I think you're going to be a little bit more likely to succeed. And then as you become more and more of an expert, then you can keep pulling in more strategies. Just start talking to your friends and family about it. By talking about it more, you're going to feel more motivated to do it. And then there's almost that little bit of sense of accountability, because if you've told everyone but you haven't really done much, then you're going to feel like you should, and it's going to give you a little extra boost to do it. I know for me, even creating this YouTube channel has been a huge strategy I've used to try to put it out there into the universe that this is something I'm currently working on. And it actually has helped motivate me to put more effort into decluttering. I also think by talking about it more and saying that it's something you want to do, you're taking advantage of cognitive dissonance, which basically is what happens when you kind of hold two different beliefs at the same time and they're kind of contradicting. Or say you hold a belief and you've expressed it to others, but you're doing something that's not consistent with that belief. That creates this cognitive dissonance that as humans we really try to avoid. So by talking about it more, saying that you really want this change to happen, you're more likely to then adjust your behaviors to match that. And so just by talking about it more with family and friends, you're going to be more likely to make the changes that you really want to make. Another principle that I wish I had known a little earlier in the minimalism process is to just focus less on what you can get rid of and focus more about what you love and what you need. Because sometimes it's easy to get rid of a few things, but then you end up keeping things that you don't really love and you don't really need. But by putting your attention on which of these objects do I really, really love and I really enjoy and I look forward to using, or objects that I use a lot and are extremely beneficial to my lifestyle, those are the items you want to keep. And once you've kept those, then the rest will feel a little bit more extraneous and you'll actually be able to declutter more than if you were just focusing on what you don't need or want. Another really important one is to make sure that you're celebrating the victories as they happen. As you make those first steps towards minimalism and you still feel like you have so much ahead of you, I'm still in that stage, I think celebrating those victories and feeling good about them and giving yourself some kind of a little prize or just spending some time thinking about the accomplishment, I think can be really motivating and actually help you move forward in your process. Rather than thinking, this was just one closet that I decluttered, it didn't make that big of a difference. Instead thinking, wow, that was a really big closet and look how organized it looks now. And just imagine once my whole house is that way. That's going to be way more powerful in continuing to motivate you to do this than just focusing on the negative. Mark your progress. Find some sort of way. Maybe it's taking photos and sending it to a family member or just keeping them in a file. Maybe it's writing down lists. Maybe it's, in my case, creating this YouTube channel. By marking your progress of moving towards minimalism, you're going to start to feel better about it, notice your progress, and you're going to be more motivated to continue to make progress because you know then you'll be able to write it down or take a photo and feel good about that accomplishment. Tracking your progress and reminiscing about it can really have a powerful impact. So I ultimately think that these are just some strategies to get you going, things to think about as you move into minimalism. But I really want to go back to that first one and just emphasize, figure out the why. Because once you figure out the why, you can always come back to that. And even if you have bumps along the way, if you get behind where you wanted to be, Coming back to that why is going to keep you motivated even through the ups and the downs. Thanks so much for watching today, and hopefully I will see you in the next one.